and I'm the CEO and founder of H. Andersen Capital. Today with me, I have Philip Coombs, who's the part of our international advisory board and is based in Leeds in the UK. Thank you. Nice to see you, Philip. And I'll hand it over to you because we agreed you will be the moderator.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to have the opportunity to do this talk. So I guess I'll start by introducing myself to those who don't know me. So I am a third-year student at the University of Leeds studying economics. And this year I founded a student news organization called Leeds Finsights. And part of that organization produces newsletters, but also hosts digital events. So a part of that similarity with what HC Andersen has been doing means that I kind of joined this company and as a part of the international advisory board and have been doing some work for a few months now. So to give context, HC Andersen Capital are based in Copenhagen and have come up with the new innovation of digital investor relations. And today we'll be talking through how that is going to help to democratize access to the financial markets. So Tua, I don't know if it's best you can give some context of your career and how you came to start this company.
Yeah, thank you very much, Philip. And first of all, thank you very much for joining our international advisory board. You are just the person we're looking for, so thank you very much. I will start giving you a bit of context. First of all, the name H. Andersen Capital is basically the fairy tale writer of Denmark. He was born in 1805, and he's probably one of the most famous Danish people. So we thought that this is a fairy tale, so this was probably the right person to name it after. Plus, everybody knows who he is. So in case we are very successful internationalizing this business, this might be a good name. By the way, feel free in the chat to ask questions if you have any. It will be my pleasure to answer them. A bit about my background: I've been born in out of the investment banking industry. Been there for 20 years in various positions as an equity analyst, as an equity sales, and I've had some managerial positions. My latest position was a managing partner in the investment bank ABG Sundal Collier, where I did 10 years as the MD in Denmark. And a year ago, I thought now is the time that somebody else can do better than me. So why don't I leave and get something else done? And I've started a new career. I'm now the chairman of a couple of companies, which is hugely interesting. But also, I thought that Corona would change the financial market. And I can sincerely tell you that it has. Because we are trying to democratize the financial markets for several reasons. And I'll just briefly show you. This is our pitch slide, by the way. And I would very much invite you to follow us in H. Andersen Capital on both our website, of course, but on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. You can find us there. And this would be my pleasure to have you, and feel free to join. So what I'll tell you a bit about is probably try to inspire you a bit that you as first of all young people and also people from the outside who probably never invested before will mean a lot more to the stock markets in the future. There's simply more of you. And in the old days, it was institutional investors who set the price, so to speak, on equities. In the future, I think it will be private investors, high net worth individuals, and also all kinds of people that are interested in the stock market because it's now become very accessible, very intuitive, and very, very interesting because people have made a lot of money. So there will be a lot of investors coming in who's probably got not so much experience before. There's basically two tendencies in the stock market. There's the gamification, I would call it. And that means that you buy because somebody else buys, and not because you know something, but because you think it's a game. That's what I call gamification. And the other part, and that's where we come into the picture, is actually to distribute news, intelligence, commentaries, research, access to management to a much wider scale. And why is that interesting to companies? That is because if you have a lot of new investors coming in who do not know of the financial markets, they will have a tendency not to know enough about the markets, and they need to be educated. If you educate yourself, you will buy the right things, you will make more money, and the whole perspective of small and mid caps being brought to the market is just very interesting. In Leeds, for example, you would not know many of the smaller companies in Scandinavia. How could you get to know them? You can do that through our platform. So you simply enlarge your investment universe to a much smaller scale. Give you an example. GameStop. You all remember that 2 months ago, where there was a complete hype. Somebody wrote on Reddit that there was another people buying. So the stock went completely ballistic. It's not a great company. It was actually close to being bankrupt. They sell an old-fashioned product through a network of boutiques, and they had no chance of doing that. But because of the hype that was going on, suddenly this was worth a lot. That's gamification for me. What we want to avoid is that kind of situation, because it's bad for the stock market. It might be good for some, it might be bad for some. And what we want to encourage is that people actually get to know the companies they invest in. So the 4 key trends we are sort of addressing here is that if you do your investor relations, and what I mean by investor relations, it's the provide news, commentaries, and access to management through digital means, it will mean that a lot of more people can actually follow you. And that means that a CEO sitting behind a desk like we do now can get into thousands of people. In the old days, physical meetings were the only solutions, because then there was, a CEO coming into a room, pour the coffee, and then they had a talk one-on-one. But it's just immensely ineffective. This is much more effective. You can reach many, many more. You can reach new investment groups, which I find very attractive, because there's many, many different investor types now that the companies need to cater for. So that's the reason for the companies to be on our platform. That is that they can reach many, many more investors. I don't know, Philip, was that intuitively you could could you follow me?
Yeah, no, that was great. I think to summarize the 2 key aspects of the business model you guys have created is, the first is to really give these small and medium cap companies a platform where they gain visibility. I think there's so many of these smaller firms which are missed. The retail investor, I mean, the standard university student who is interested in stocks will know the large stocks, the FANG stocks, for example, and also the hype stocks that are being pumped on the Reddit forums. But there's a lot of companies with real value and really strong business models that fly under the radar. And I think what your business does is provide visibility for these firms to people who would otherwise not know who they are. And then the second part is the information you guys create on your platform by interviewing the CEOs and digging deeper into their business model and their growth strategies previously only exists in boardrooms. It's usually behind closed doors, only accessible to the larger investors in those firms. So to get that information onto a platform where the retail investor like myself can access it, I think it could be huge moving forward, especially as this platform grows and more people hear of it.
Exactly. And can I perhaps add to a couple of points, because I think you get it exactly right. But also, I don't know, you're sitting in the UK, some of you, and in Scandinavia, if the biggest word right now in everything we do is sustainability. So to say that you're not doing your stuff, whether it's sales, whether it's marketing, whatever it is, not doing it sustainable is just a complete no-go. So the fact that you fly as a CEO to New York to see 3 investors, I think in the future will be an absolute no-go, because you cannot afford as a company to send your CEO visiting US investors 4 times a year, burning a lot of CO2. So you have to do your investor relations sustainable as well. And this platform, obviously being digital, it's born sustainable. So that's just making that point too. I think many people will avoid companies not investing if they're not sustainable. So that's another part of founding this business. So, and then about the democratization, I think that's an important point. Born out of the old world, I am, in the sense that you have institutional investors who possessed a lot of knowledge and asked for a lot of meetings, and they were given or are given access to top CEOs very frequently, and thereby you can ask yourself whether that's equal information. Because one-on-ones is obviously very important for if you have many billions to invest, it's a necessary thing and it will go on. But because things have progressed so quickly on these platforms that we are on today, there's no reason why a CEO shouldn't be available to private investors. There's simply no excuse in anymore. And thereby, I think we've created something that will democratize and thereby retain a lot of more people's interest because CEOs are generally very good people. So if you can put your CEO in front of a camera doing this, what we're doing now, they are extremely intelligent. They are normally very good at communicating, but they just haven't done it before. But now with a digital platform like ours or anybody else, you can do it. You can do it timely. You can do it in the same time span as all the other information gets out there. And that's just very important, I think, in the future, because private investors will not accept in the long run that they get less information than the institutions. I don't, that make sense, Philip?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I hope the audience can understand the value. And what's really exciting is you guys, HC Andersen Capital, seem to be the first movers with this kind of platform. And of course, it makes sense to start in Copenhagen and grow in the market that you know. But what's exciting is the expansion plans. So I don't know if Tue, you want to talk about the plans that you guys have moving forward and maybe touch on some of the clients or software.
Sure. I think that let me just briefly explain what we do. So let's say you have a company that is providing vaccines, and today they came out with a very interesting study saying that vaccines is going to stay here with COVID-19 and that 19, sorry, and that they have a tremendous commercial perspectives. What we'll do is comment on our platform. You can get an insight. What's actually the meaning of this? It will be translated into a normal language so people can understand it. It will be on our social platform. Then we'll do an event and the CEO will be interviewed about the prospects of this commercialization. Everybody can attack it. That's what you can find on our social media platform. And the reason I want to make this point, Philip, is that social media is by definition democratic. Everybody is there. You can access this free of charge. So in the old days, everything was protected behind bars from a bank because they preserved the information for their clients. This is then free of charge. Now it's free of charge. And that, I think, alone will provide some democratization of the financial markets, which I think will attract especially young investors. So that's the point. Let me just briefly touch upon a few other things. This is our team. This is where Philip comes in as well. You will see that there's a lot of young people and there's a lot of I cannot say old people because they are not old. They are just older than the young ones. And they're all very experienced within equities and digital means. And the whole point about internationalization, and that this is where your name comes up, Philip, and this is about what and digital platform can by definition be exported elsewhere. And I think our biggest potential is that you as a UK, sitting in the UK, sitting in Sweden, sitting everywhere, if we can by providing information on a digital mean, being sort of the facilitator of distributing great news, good news, bad news to everybody, it can by definition be scaled internationally. And we started off in Sweden because that's our neighbor in Denmark, and we have hired two people, a CEO and a director. what we'll do is get into the UK. Philip is our cornerstone there. He's helping us greatly out. He's part of the international board. You will see the same in Switzerland, France, in Germany, because it's obvious that these countries is ready to a digital investor relation effort, and we'll keep on doing that because it has two perspectives. First of all, Scandinavian equities to the UK market, but also UK companies to the Scandinavian investor base. And we are sort of getting rid of the banks and the brokers. We are doing it in a social democratic platform that people can relate to, and it's free of charge. Should we take a couple of the questions, Philip, before moving on?
Yeah, I think so. There's a few questions which have been put in the chat. So I think starting there makes sense. One person, Matt, has asked, what do you expect from, for example, financial institutions to actually implement in terms of environmental strategies?
That's a very broad question. I think that financial institutions in general, that being banks, insurance, fintech, all kinds of things, they will not do it by themselves, but they will do it because their clients ask them to. So what you will see pop up in Scandinavia is already very, very big, and you can see all these ETFs in the global industry about environmental investments is popping up. The inflow of capital is just enormous, and that's why you will see that a lot of these equities is actually exploding in value, not because they are very attractive, but because the capital inflow is so high that the passive investors will buy them. So banks and insurance companies will go in this direction, providing all kinds of products that you can buy in this case.
Great. Hopefully that answers Matt's question. Teddy has asked, how do you intend to protect retail investors from inaccurate financial communication? Which I think is a really excellent question.
Yeah, it's an excellent question, because what we do on our platform is obviously paid. Somebody has to pay, otherwise it's not a business. And those who are paying is the companies. The companies pays us to create visibility, pays us to comment on their stock, and provide an opportunity for them to use our platform, getting in touch with their clients or their investors. So our job is, and that's back to the team we have, is knowledgeable people who knows exactly what it's all about. So that's why you will find a big disclaimer in everything we do that says HC Andersen Capital has a DigitalIR agreement with this company, thereby explaining that we get money for doing what we do. The point is, nobody else does it. If there's no platform, there's no access. So you have to, of course, acknowledge that our platform is paid for by the companies, but that also means that, for example, we've had some of the vaccine companies, they've had big trouble explaining that, some of these companies explode in value because of some information comes out in the market, and then they have a chance, because we interview them here, all the investors can go on here, ask their questions, and thereby they can correct mistakes if they're in the market. So we actually have some of our clients or companies using the platform, is using it to ensure that the market knows exactly what this is about. So I think we are helpful in correcting mistakes in the financial markets.
I think it's also important to emphasize, correct me if I'm wrong, but the clients that you bring on board, it's not just open to anyone to be a part of your platform. You sit down with the CEOs and understand their business model, and only partner with companies that have legitimate business models, and that in that sense there's a protection from, I think, the kind of fraud which is hinted at, or the possibility of misinformation.
You're absolutely right. That we are only doing it with companies. We are kind of endorsing with our names and our mind and soul, that we are endorsing the companies that is on the platform as real, genuine companies and CEOs and CFOs. So in that respect, we need to make sure that we can trust them and that we have confidence in them. And you're right about that.
Sure. Should we take another question?
Yes, I think so, definitely.
Okay, great. There's a question which says, how can you ensure CEOs or other company leaders willing to cooperate with HC Andersen and willing to disclose some information to the public?
Yeah. Let me just, the financial markets is working this way, in my view. Now it becomes philosophy. If you are a company that needs capital, and most companies are on the stock market to be able to use it. If you then have a price that is either too low, you have a liquidity that's too low, you have no visibility in the market, you cannot use the financial market. Nobody will buy your stock, and thereby you cannot raise equity to grow your business, if that's what you want. Assuming you want to grow your business, you want to buy something, do M&A, you want to do something. So every company that is listed on the stock exchange has an obligation, but also a big interest in disclosing the right amounts, not only what they are asked to do, but disclosing the things that drives the value of the stock. And we, I think, are a facilitator and a platform for that. Because if you're not visible, the stock will be mispriced. That's the basic concept.
Yeah, great. So I think to emphasize, I think there's a question which relates a little to what the companies get from partnering with HC Andersen Capital, and that is the exposure to many retail investors, which hopefully in turn will drive their equity valuations up and free up some capital for growth or whatever else they have planned.
And then Matt is asking if what's the outreach is. And obviously we are trying to build a platform that is interesting for you as an observer to be on. Events, very frequent, 2 or 3 every day, that where you can meet CEOs. That alone, I think, is very interesting for you. You will get to know how they think. If you want a career, if you want to invest, you can actually meet them, ask questions. That's the own first thing. Our commentaries, our reach, you can see here on the platform. There's 3.2 million people that have seen something from HC Andersen Capital. So that's a lot of people who is watching us. You can see what we do on YouTube. You can see what we do on Facebook. You can see what we do on LinkedIn. And we are trying to, communicate not what people want, but communicate interesting and complicated things in a manner that people can understand. So making the whole capital market accessible to private investors. That's our goal. And that's how we do it, and that's why I think people is actually looking in, following us, and stuff like that. There will be others who do crazy things, pictures, everything, but we want to keep it in a format where people actually feel that it's professional people, but yet somebody who's constantly challenging how we communicate.
I think building on what you've said, there's something which we maybe haven't touched on specifically enough, but that's emphasizing that the events HC Andersen Capital run are live. So when there were questions of misinformation or there's a misunderstanding of what the company's growth potential is, the retail investor can join the events live and ask those questions directly to the CEOs. And part of the interviews you host with them is that Q&A.
Exactly. And I think that we shouldn't be sitting there and saying, look, we only look for the good things, because that's ridiculous in my view. We have to challenge the CEOs, because the investors, no doubt, they are challenging them anyway. So it's much better for a CEO or CFO to be asked the difficult questions in a seminar like this, and then they can actually relate to them, because very, very often it's misperception or it's not an understanding. So if they can correct mistakes in the market, this alone represents a value. And that's why we do it live. And afterwards, you can watch it on YouTube if you follow HC Andersen Capital or our. So everybody can see it. It's out there. If you have any questions, please feel free to be there. because the whole point is that they are open to question.
Yeah, perfect. I think it's worth, some of the audience is from the UK, so there's a combination at the moment of these events. Some of them are still in Danish with the Danish clients, but as the growth continues and there's expansion to the UK and a few other countries, I think the plan is to see more of these interviews conducted in English. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, exactly, Philip, and it will be a combination. Let's take, we have I don't know if you're familiar with the software as a service industry. This is a new industry of software companies throughout the world. And then what we'll do on June 1st, I think you should look, that will be in English. It will be 9 or 10 companies that will present their business model. And if you are, whoever you are, no matter what you do, this is the new world. So if you can get an understanding, meet 8 to 9 CEOs explaining in 15 minutes what their company is about, how they structure it, how they do things in a different manner, this will be hugely inspirational. So I can only encourage you to join the 1st of June. You can find it on our website. And this is a good example of what we want to do. We want to combine things in new ways, giving inspiration. You don't have to buy all the companies. Maybe you want to sell some of them. That's fine with me. The fact is that they're accessible. And I think that's the most important thing. And whether you're in the, UK, the US, Norway, Sweden, who cares? This is about understanding business in a whole new manner.
I mean, to reiterate the point that's already been made, I think the business model is super exciting, and the fact HC Andersen is the first to really be building this platform in its entirety, from sourcing the clients and producing the content and then putting the content out on the platform as a whole project. The value proposition is clear, and I think I speak on behalf of myself. I'm excited to see this business model move to the UK and some more familiar companies.
Yeah, we're super excited too. And I think that what Scandinavian companies can do for the UK companies is that they can inspire them to be more sustainable, more growth driven, more, different in the mindset. And I think that's perhaps some of you guys could be inspired by is how you build companies in Denmark, for example, or in Sweden, where you have a very liquid and a very interesting stock market to build on. And you will see that there's been tons of IPOs over the past 12 months in these countries. So it's very inspirational right now. So that's, I can see that, and there's a guy here who's Steen is asking some questions, Philip. Maybe we should take them.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I don't know, do we still want to finish at past? So maybe we make that the last question of the day.
Yeah, please. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. Steen has said, I assume that you do not give recommendation on shares like buy or sell, and also that CEOs can only communicate what has otherwise been communicated to the stock exchange. There's no insider information going on.
You're absolutely right, Steen. It's a complete no-go. We of course debated it whether we should give buy or sell recommendations, but in my view, if you're paid by the company, it makes no sense. It's a partial move that we would then say buy, and I think that's worth nothing. So we have completely skipped it. You can find what we call investment cases on all companies on our website, where you can sort of see us digest the news, the coming news flow, so that we are on top of what happens, but we don't encourage you to either buy or sell because it makes no sense. And then, of course, about the inside information. It's absolutely clear that this is not inside information, because what I'm just saying that these meetings are now held in public where they were held privately before. So of course they cannot give more information in private than they can public. But this means that you have a chance to address anything that is on your mind. And that's not necessarily the same as being insider. So just to stress the fact, this is not inside information, no buy and sell recommendations from us.
That's great. I hope that's cleared up that question as well. I guess to finish off, just say thank you to for hosting this event, and I hope our audience has gained some good understanding to what the digital investor relations business model is all about, and hopefully one or two will join the event, the software as a service. What date did you say that was?
Yeah, I'll just write it here now. It's software as a service, 1st of June.
Great.
H.C. Andersen Capital.
So 1st of June, that's an all-English event to get a taste of what the interviews with the CEOs are like. And then I think hopefully our audience can start to see some English companies join this long client list in the coming months or years, and get interested to follow H.C. Andersen Capital's growth. I guess as a final point, I'd like to say thank you all for joining today. Thank you those who have seen the promotion of the event through Leeds Insights or from other social medias. Yeah, it's been a great talking to you too.
No problem, Philip. It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much all for joining. And if you have any leads to us, not leads, but leads in the sense that the companies that you should get on this platform, let me know. Please write me. My details is everywhere. So basically, this is me. This is my sort of. So please write me or write Philip, and we'll find out. Thank you very much, Philip. Thank you all. See you.
Thank you.